When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off. K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging K-Love.
You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and today, man, we have a special guest. We have a very important topic that we're going to be discussing today. We have our special guest, Bryan Hubbard. He is the CEO of Americans for Ibogaine and a longtime champion for innovative solutions to addiction, mental health, and systemic reform. I can't wait to talk about this. He has an amazing website you can go to. That's actually two. Take some notes. It's wbryanhubbard.com and also americansforibogaine.org. Can't wait to dive in. And first and most, I just want to say thank you, sir, for taking time out of your busy schedule. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well, and it's very much a privilege to be with you this morning.
Yes, sir. Can you start off by sharing a little bit about your journey from practicing workers' compensation law and also witnessing the early opioid crisis in Kentucky?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was a young person, I thought that the way in which I could be a contributor to American society was to go to law school and become a lawyer, where I would be taught how to defend truth, justice, and the American way. And within my first semester of attending law school, I found out the hard way that law has nothing to do with any of those things, that it is often nothing other than a tool that the hand that pays for the power to wield it uses to bind, torture, and kill the truth. Like a lot of folks who go to law school and now to college generally, I came out with a significant debt that required that I find any job that would allow me to pay that debt and hopefully keep a roof over my head and food on the table. And I ended up having a genuinely accidental law career representing three large companies in Kentucky, Walmart, Tyson Foods, and Tennessee Valley Authority, in their workers' compensation litigation with employees who had alleged that they had been injured on the job while working for those companies. Many of those claims were legitimate. Some of them were not. And there were some that were in very much a gray area. And my job was to assess what the company owed the employee, to make sure that the employee received everything that they were entitled to receive under the law without ever arguing who was at fault for the accident. This legal career began in earnest in the year 2000 and continued through 2016, the first 16 years of what is now a 30-year opioid epidemic, which has disfigured America across every racial, cultural, and socioeconomic demographic. Watching the opioid epidemic play out within my caseload, wherein individuals who had injuries from which they should have recovered but were instead sent to primary care physicians, unscrupulous surgeons, or pain clinic physicians whose very first instinct was to heavily medicate an individual with opioid medication, primarily OxyContin, and then paired with habituating psychotropic medication, heavy-duty SSRIs, Xanax, Prozac, others that in sum total work with the opioid to anesthetize the soul and slowly euthanize the body. I came to conclude that there had been the emergence of a doctor-lawyer disability complex, which worked as a system. And when I talked about practicing law as a workers' comp attorney, the legal system with which I worked was actually a political patronage system that masqueraded as a legal system. Personal injury lawyers nominated the judges. Those same personal injury lawyers gave campaign contributions to the governors who appointed those judges. So I could go into a hearing room and look and see who the judge was, who the lawyer was, and know exactly what the outcome of the case was going to be before I ever even presented the first argument. I could also look at a case that would come to me, see who the lawyer was, who the physician was, and be able to tell you exactly what was going to happen to that person. There became a template factory process whereby doctors and lawyers trafficked human beings through a workers' compensation system and created as much pharmacological and ultimately physical dependence on substances, on the subsistence income that was delivered through that system as possible, so as to, on the one hand, build the physician's practice with a lifetime patient, and then on the other hand, for the lawyer, produce a legal fee that they could put in their pocket from a person who could never, ever go back to work again. I came to have leadership positions in Kentucky state government that included the leadership of the state Social Security disability system. This is what we are told is a system that provides income and health care benefits to injured or disabled people who can't provide for themselves, which is a just and noble, appropriate goal that we should have that system serve. Within that system, I saw that very much there was what I considered to be the cultivation of as much dependency on pharmacology, as much dependency on that system as possible. I'll give you an example. Between 1980 and 2015, 35 years, Kentucky's population grew by 20%. Enrollment in the Social Security disability program grew 249%. The enrollment of children in the Social Security disability program grew 449%. And paired with those enrollment numbers was an explosive growth in the issuance of opioid prescriptions to adults within that system between 2001 to 2015, from about 47 individual doses per recipient up to 147 doses per recipient, as well as the issuance of habituating psychotropic medication that is mind-boggling. From what was in 2001, the administration of 272 habituating psychotropic doses of medication per SSI Medicaid child, all the way up to 457 by the end of 2015. At one point in time, there was enough opioid prescriptions being trafficked in and around Kentucky so as to be able to medicate the entire United States of America for a month. And this is a state that's got 4.8 million people. So through my experience in that government system, as well as leading a law enforcement agency that investigated and prosecuted medical providers on the Medicaid system, where I came to see a caseload where doctors who practice addiction medicine, who prescribe methadone and Suboxone for their patients, many of whom provided legitimate services to treat addicted individuals, but others of whom use their medical license and their prescription pad to essentially be white-collar drug dealers under the auspices of the law in their communities, flooding those communities with Suboxone and methadone prescriptions that created as much opioid dependency as they legitimately treated. I came to the conclusion that massive government systems are enthroned upon the helplessness of powerless people. They commodify problems that they are supposed to solve by monetizing sustained human misery, and their only incentive is to see that those problems grow and are perpetuated at scale for all eternity. In 2022, I was asked whether I wanted to lead Kentucky's Opioid Commission, which had been established by the legislature in 2021, to utilize $1 billion in settlement funds from opioid manufacturers and distributors for their role in the creation of the opioid epidemic. Kentucky, along with Louisiana, is one of the most corrupt states in the country. Power exists to serve itself first, foremost, and always, and anything thrown to the people are crumbs, usually to the obedient and politically compliant. And folks were used to picking the bones clean off of this sort of money who held those power levers. So when it came time to consider the position, I said, look, I'll take this, but this is a very treacherous opportunity. I will lead the commission if it can be led in a manner that is accessible to everyday organizations that are in the trenches that don't have grant writers with millions of dollars to game the application. I'll do it if it is accountable to the people of Kentucky, present ourselves, hear what they need instead of telling them what we think they ought to have, and make sure that it's transparent so that every dollar that is spent is put on an interactive website so that everybody can see where every single penny is going, because this money's been purchased with the lives of their loved ones. With the agreement to those conditions, I took the job, and one of the first things I said we needed to do was to explore whether we could take a small percentage of the money, 5%, $42 million, to pursue a therapeutic breakthrough for opioid dependency, recognizing that our existing options involve the use of opioids to treat opioid dependency, never allowing an individual to become physiologically free from dependency. Because I had read scientific literature about the breakthrough therapeutic potential of what are called psychedelics around issues of mental illness and substance dependency, I came to learn that there is an alkaloid called Ibogaine, which is derived from the Tabernacle iboga, a plant that grows in West Africa. Ibogaine is the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. It is not a recreational drug. It has a very debilitating impact on the body. A person who consumes it will experience a state of semi-paralysis for 12 to 16 hours, often throwing up repeatedly through that process. It must be administered by a trained medical professional in a controlled clinical setting. If you take too much, it will stop your heart and you will die. It has to be appropriately dosed and appropriately monitored the entire time someone is under the medicine. But when they come out, for 80% of people who take a single treatment, they never experience any withdrawal syndrome and are able to be fully free of physiological opioid dependency. That number goes up to 97% with the administration of a second supportive dose. It's important to note that Ibogaine creates a window of physiological restoration that nothing else can, that can allow an individual to have an opportunity to pursue a long-term recovery that includes rebuilding a shattered life in a way that nothing else can. It is not a now and forevermore cure. What it does is restore the ownership and agency of the individual to make the clear-headed decisions that they must make to pursue the life they want to have versus the one that they've had to live.
Once again, listen to I Am Refocused Radio and watching us online, talking to our guest today, Bryan Hubbard, CEO of Americans for Ibogaine. And I want to give you two websites again. That's wbryanhubbard.com and americansforibogaine.org. My next question for you is, as CEO of Americans for Ibogaine, what are the organization's top priorities right now for advancing more education, research, and also policy around Ibogaine?
Well, our organization currently has as its responsibility the advancement of research, development, and deployment of psychedelic medicine across the United States. We are the authors and architects of what is called the Texas Ibogaine Initiative, which is the single largest public investment in psychedelic research and medical development in all history. It's a project that, as its objective, will fund one unified FDA drug development trial to drive Ibogaine all the way through the FDA process to generate an approved medication. We simultaneously had the privilege of working, Governor Perry and myself, former Texas Governor Rick Perry is the co-founder of this organization. We had the privilege of working with Mr. Joe Rogan to work through the President of the United States to negotiate an executive order that he signed on April 18, 2026, just a little less than 2 months ago, that essentially ends federal prohibition on the advancement of psychedelic medicine within the United States and prioritizes Ibogaine's medical development as a matter of federal priority, recognizing that it is a potential breakthrough therapeutic for the treatment of trauma and addiction. Our goal is to be the very best custodian that we can of the opportunity presented to us to first and foremost hold government systems accountable for making sure that there is steady and responsive progress for the deployment of psychedelic medicine throughout the U.S. medical system in all corners. And it's necessary to maintain vigilance because many of these systems have been engineered to repress the emergence of psychedelic medicine for 60 years now. There's a profound amount of residual institutional culture that will be resistant, combined with bureaucratic complexity and just the general incompetencies of government. We have to hold those systems accountable. We also have to be in the business of eliminating for the people of America what is in front of us as a people based on what we've already seen. Over the past 10 years, 1.5 million Americans have died from alcohol-related disease, drug overdose, and suicide, a figure which exceeds the total number of all U.S. soldiers killed in combat since 1776. We have 102 counties in the United States with life expectancies less than that of North Korea. In my humble opinion, all of these are the most terminal symptoms of profound spiritual distress and despair which has this society in its grips. The United States is materially wealthy and technologically advanced in a way that no other country is. But at the ground level, for most people who live lives of survival, there is a crisis of individual and human identity, where individual purpose cannot be found in a society that is brutally dehumanizing to individual identity. We have the emergence of godlike technology in the form of AI, which has the capacity to fully displace the necessity for broad swaths of human labor that have always been required to achieve human progress. What do we do with that? Do we drop them into these corrupted and polluted systems that have worked on us for 30 years to produce the opioid epidemic, to produce the 2008 financial crisis, to produce 25 years of war, much of which has been waged on false pretenses, which have produced mass incarceration on the basis of the war on drugs? Or do we use this opportunity to advance psychedelic medicine to also advance the cause of reforming American governance systems so that they serve to elevate and revere the primacy of the human soul? And the objective of our organization is to try to facilitate through this grand civics project scientific and medical breakthroughs, but also a broad-based shift in social consciousness that will allow us to overcome so many of the fabricated superficial divisions that power uses to divide and exploit and subjugate us as a people.
When you think about some of the hurdles, what are some maybe biggest hurdles, scientific hurdles that are making Ibogaine safe, FDA approved, or widely accessible as an option in the United States?
The biggest obstacle that I have consistently encountered is not political resistance, be it from Democrats or Republicans, not from reactionary negative attitudes towards psychedelics from religious folk. It is the institutional resistance of credentialed expertise that have been trained to believe that what they have been taught, what they have scored high on in tests, is the very best that ever has, that ever will be, and that anything that threatens to displace what they have been taught is right is to be fought and resisted every step of the way. There was a wise gentleman I knew who was by the name of Dr. George W. Johnson. He was president of George Mason University, which is now the largest university, public university in the state of Virginia. He built that place. He was a Korean War vet, went to school on the GI Bill, and his motto was, the enemy of education is not ignorance, it's expertise. And oftentimes the greatest enemy of progress is expertise. And when it comes to systems of public health that are supposed to address those most profound symptoms of human misery as expressed by debilitating mental illness and addiction, oftentimes expertise is the greatest barrier to the opportunity to create progress.
Once again, listen on Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, W. Bryan Hubbard, CEO of Americans for Ibogaine. You can go to his website. He has two, wbryanhubbard.com and also americansforibogaine.org. I know we're getting close on time, but I have a few more questions for individuals out there or families who might be struggling with addiction, trauma, or even veterans. Local San Antonio is known for the military city, USA. PTSD is also a big topic. What practical advice or hope would you want to offer them based on your advocacy work?
Well, unfortunately, we are years away from Ibogaine being an available treatment in the United States. It is a treatment that not necessarily needs to be a frontline treatment because of its potency and its power. It usually should be reserved for those who are in terminal relationship with their mental illness or with their substance dependency. The good news is that within this year, there will likely be the FDA's approval of psilocybin treatment that has a tremendous track record when it comes to its capacity to resolve treatment-resistant depression and anxiety, as well as post-traumatic stress. It also works on chronic alcohol dependency in ways that have breakthrough therapeutic efficacy. A medication called MDMA, which has a recreational history known as Molly, but has been discovered to have significant therapeutic impact on depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. These will be approved by the FDA likely within the next 12 months. And once approved, the process of integrating these into the U.S. healthcare system so that prescribers can prescribe them and therapists can create individualized treatment plans that maximize their therapeutic benefit should be something that we should see emerge within the next 18 months. For those who are struggling with everything that they currently have that's not working, know that hope is on the way. And as with every step of progress we make, it will build upon itself so that we can create a reformation of treatment paradigms within the U.S. healthcare and mental health and addiction treatment systems that can deliver restorative results rather than just numb somebody to what never seems to go away.
When you think about policymakers, what they've contributed so far, and you look at data, what's some things that inspire you, and what are some further steps that can be taken?
Well, I think probably the greatest thing that inspires me is to understand what the impact on the brain is of all the psychedelics, but in particular Ibogaine. Ibogaine seems to have a dramatic neuroregenerative impact on the brain that nothing else has. And the discovery of this is something that is as profound as the discovery of penicillin. Many of the other psychedelics have the capacity to unlock the brain's pathological pathways of thought and behavior in such a fashion as to enable us to relearn and re-engage life in an entirely new way, one that is intrinsically connected to the unique specialness of the individual. There are dramatic opportunities to improve treatment outcomes related to debilitating neurological conditions, the impact on stroke victims left by a damaged brain that must relearn how to move the body. There are studies underway right now that show psilocybin treatment for stroke victims has shown a dramatic capacity to improve those treatment outcomes. When it comes to Ibogaine, a lot of people, there are some folks with means, with Parkinson's disease, Lyme disease, and multiple sclerosis who are experiencing dramatic remission of symptoms as a result of Ibogaine treatment in a way that is unparalleled in the history of treatment of those conditions. There are a lot of reasons to be enthusiastic about what may be a variety of scientific and medical breakthroughs that can improve the human condition at scale. What I would encourage the audience, and I'm going to use Ibogaine as an example, to do is to follow, pay attention, and let's make sure that we use this opportunity to integrate psychedelic medicine to achieve some reforms that are necessary to put the human condition at the center of what government systems should serve, rather than trying to monetize problems that are never solved. And part of that is being unified as a people. In my opinion, and I come from the coal fields of Virginia, where there was a long battle for unionization that was fought by a bunch of white hillbillies that ultimately required the joinder of their black brothers and sisters who had actually been hired to replace them in those mines by the companies, but came to stand in solidarity with them. In my opinion, the beauty of a plant from West Africa coming across the ocean to heal the descendants of the coal miner and the descendants of the sharecropper together illustrate the racial and social unity we must have as a people if we are going to assert our independence against all those divisive forces of power that aim to conquer us through our division. And just on a person-to-person relationship basis, don't fall for the seduction of rage that you see on your social media. That is awash in the pollution of our time. Recognize that you are divine. The person beside you is divine. And we as Americans have a beautiful opportunity to seek the restoration of our own individual healing as well as the healing of our nation.
Great words. I appreciate you saying that. And that's what this show is all about. Maybe all refocused. Once again, talking to our guest today, true honor, talking to W. Bryan Hubbard, CEO of Americans for Ibogaine. Go to his website, wbryanhubbard.com, and also americansforibogaine.org. In the last minute that we have left, what will be your message to America? I know you kind of said it, but if there's anything else you want to say before you sign off, what would that be?
This country was founded upon a uniquely articulated truth that we are all endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you are a human being with breath in your body, you are sacred. The iron in your blood originated in a supernova eons ago, because it is only the explosion of a star that can produce that elemental substance. Know who you are. Know who your neighbor is. You are the children of light and the inheritors of the most beautifully dynamic multicultural society that has ever existed. Create peace within yourself and unity between your neighbor. And let's get to work on cleaning the filth that has polluted this country's society for 30 years together.
Like I always want to say to you, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
When the world is just too much, turn it off and turn on positive, encouraging K-Love.
I'm gonna praise.
World off. K-Love on.
K-Love is sunshine for my soul.
I love K-Love.
Listen now on your radio, online, or on the free K-Love app.
K-Love makes me feel so good.
Positive, encouraging